Hey everyone, it's Jack here, TalkNorwichCity. Welcome back to another video. Now, the championship season has finished. The dust is settling. We know who's being relegated. We know who's gone up. The playoffs are over, which means one thing, and that's looking back at my championship season predictions. Now, I put together a video at the start of the campaign highlighting where I think every single team of the 24 would finish. Some of them were bang on. Some of them were close. Some of them were outlandishly wrong. Let's get into it. Well, for relegation, I predicted QPR, Huddersfield and Sheffield Wednesday to go down. I got one of those bang on in the shape of Huddersfield. They will be playing League One football next season. Well, QPR were revitalised under Martí Cifuentes. I thought for a second I was going to be bang on with QPR. They were really struggling for a long while this season, but managed to pull clear. And actually, I was 6 places out with QPR in the end. And again, Sheffield Wednesday were really struggling for a lot of this season. And a managerial change put them into safety. And I think this is the difficult thing when we're trying to weigh up the championship at the start of the campaign. It's difficult to factor in managerial changes. Sometimes it works for the opposite reason, in the shape of Wayne Rooney at Birmingham, who did end up going down. We'll get on to Birmingham in a little while. And for QPR and Sheffield Wednesday, it went brilliantly well. So the relegation battle didn't get overly right. We'll do these in batches, and the next batch, well, there's some horrible shouts in there. And actually, for a lot of this table, I've underestimated teams. Now, Rotherham I predicted would finish 21st. They went down. Well, sorry to Hull fans, I got you horribly wrong. I predicted they would finish 20th. Actually, they finished 7th. And for most of the season, were probably looking likely to get into the playoffs. Not quite sure how I got this one so wrong. Decent manager, decent squad. Actually, probably underperformed in the grand scheme of things. So Hull got incredibly wrong. Preston North End, always find it really difficult to judge them next season. Slap them in the middle of the table. I don't think we'll be too far wrong. Cardiff actually had a fairly decent season. They finished in 12th. I thought they would struggle down in 18th place. Plymouth Argyle survived just about, and it will be fascinating to see how they get on next season. I predicted that they would finish 17th. Of course, they won League One last season, finishing above Ipswich Town. They ended up finishing 21st. Actually, a really good finish to the campaign for them to survive in the Championship, and they will be really proud of themselves. I thought they would do a little bit better than they did, but it's so tightly packed down there. Another team that I've just got so wrong, and that was West Brom. Now, I think when I cast my mind back to when I was making this video, there was a little bit of uncertainty surrounding West Brom in terms of their ownership and their playing squad and some sales having to be made. And actually, West Brom were just really solid this season, and they were kind of my dark horse to get up through the playoffs in the end. They went under the radar for the majority of the season. Everyone was talking about either the team going to sneak into 6th or Southampton and Leeds. And actually, no one was really talking about West Brom. Good manager, good squad, did what they needed to do at the right times in the season. And yes, I know they fell short, but I think they can be really proud of themselves. Again, another team I've really underestimated. The next two in here, Blackburn and Birmingham City. I mean, I got Birmingham horribly wrong, and they ended up going down in 22nd place. I had them down to finish 14th. I mean, they were absolutely ruined by Wayne Rooney. It wasn't the best squad. They started the season well. They were ruined with managerial greed. In terms of Blackburn Rovers, it was another story of starting the season relatively well and just fading away. It was again, another one of these championship squads who maybe faded throughout the season. Uncertainty from board level and ownership. And again, it's so difficult when you go through this pack of teams. It's so tight in the kind of middle pack here, and that's what makes it so difficult to predict. But Blackburn Rovers, I predicted would finish 15th. They ended up finishing 19th. Again, this middle pack here is incredibly difficult to call. Stoke, Watford, Bristol City, Swansea City. And actually here, I've not done too badly. All of those teams I was within 4 places of. Swansea, Bristol City, Watford, Stoke. I mean, Stoke at points this season looked like they might be, they were embroiled in a relegation scrap, and it looked at points that they might be playing League One football next season. In the end, had too much quality. Kind of start well, fade away, go really bad, and then pick up towards the end of the season to just about come clear. Watford are just a very mediocre Championship team now. I mean, they've still got some quality players, but so much chopping and changing, no real cohesion there. I was impressed with Swansea actually this season, and I think they can build something. Still clearly going through a transition there, but solid mid-table. Was actually really impressed with them when I saw them at Carrow Road this time round. I think they'll go well next season, depending on how the summer goes for them. And Bristol City, well, I was absolutely bang on with Bristol City. And much like Preston North End, kind of just a very solid Championship team. We're never going to compete for the playoffs really at any point this season. We're never going to be embroiled in a relegation scrap. And thankfully, one of the few I got bang on. Now this is where I got controversial in my pre-season video. I had Norwich finishing 9th and I had Ipswich Town finishing 8th. Now, I didn't think we'd get into the playoffs, so we did, and thankfully, but what I did think would happen was that Ipswich Town would finish above us. Now, I only predicted a place. In the end, it was a lot more than that. Ipswich Town, of course, going up automatically. There was a lot of hope and optimism around the Ipswich camp. I don't think anyone predicted them really to go up automatically. There were a few shrewd judges, but I think most Ipswich fans would have taken probably mid-table. I just had a funny feeling that momentum, a good head coach, and that team cohesion that they have would propel them forwards. And I did think that they would finish above us. Again, granted, didn't think they'd go up. Didn't want to predict that they'd go up. But at least that part of the prediction was right and kind of had that down. Norwich, I think, impressed me. Actually, impressed is probably the wrong word. We did more than I thought we'd do. It was still a season that I won't look back on with too much fondness, despite the goals from Sargent and Sarah and Sainz. And there was some moments to smile about, but actually it did feel like a season that just got away from us, almost just running through the motions slightly. So that was disappointing. I was 3 places out with Norwich. I predicted us 9th. We finished 6th. With Ipswich, I was 6 places out. I predicted that they would finish 8th. Instead, they finished 2nd. Ipswich, wow, what a season. Millwall, I had to finish in 7th. It was a disappointing campaign for them, actually, and I thought that they would kind of rally from last season and pull together, and the squad was going to be really strong and cohesive, and I thought their home form would be incredibly strong. Actually, we didn't see too much of that, and Millwall ended up finishing 13th, which wasn't the end of the world, and finished the season really well. It was 5 wins from 5 at the end there, so it could have been very different. I had Millwall finishing higher just because I thought they knew how to win and grind out games in this division. It didn't quite end up being like that. But again, there's a few teams now in this division that you almost can guarantee roughly where they'll finish. And that's kind of middle-ish table. One I got incredibly miles out was that of Sunderland. I thought they would finish in the playoffs. And actually, it was an incredibly disappointing season for Sunderland, who finished in 16th. I had them down to finish 6th. They started the season really well, and I remember Norwich playing at the Stadium of Light early on, and they ripped us to pieces. And I thought, wow, this is going to be a team that are going to be banging on the door of the playoffs, and for whatever reason, just completely fell away. Incredibly disappointing for them. Coventry, again, I had to finish in the playoffs, much like last season. They had some big sales in the summer. They also had some big signings, Elliot Sims being the kind of cream of that crop. It did click in the end for Coventry. They finished 9th. It was a tailed off finish, I think, once they knew that they had nothing to play for. There is still something to hang on to for Coventry fans, and I think there's still something to believe in there. But it wasn't to be in terms of their playoffs push, as I predicted. Well, I'd hope that they'd finish in the playoffs. Middlesbrough, another who I got wrong. I thought they'd finish 4th. I thought they'd have a really good season. They finished 8th. Middlesbrough, again, a really solid Championship outfit, and I think will be another side next season that pulls together something to go in and around the playoffs. There's a lot of teams now when you look at the table and you do these videos where you go, a chance of playoffs, probably not good enough for the automatics, but that middle kind of fourth right the way down to probably about 16th, I'd say, this year, any of those teams have a chance of playoffs football, and it's going to be really difficult when you're in that pack like Norwich are. The next three I got right. Now, I had Leeds down in third. They finished third, missed out on the playoffs. Leicester and Southampton, I had to go up automatically. Now, Leicester won the league. Southampton went up through the playoffs. Now, I thought at the start of the season there was a clear three who were miles better than the rest. And actually, if we're being honest, they were. I know that Southampton ended up finishing fourth, but I thought were miles better than the rest of the division. There was a clear four, actually, and I'm going to include Ipswich in that. Of course, they went up automatically. I thought Southampton, Leicester, Leeds and Ipswich were considerably better than the rest of the division. I think that made it was very apparent in the playoff semi-finals where Leeds pumped us and Southampton got the better of West Brom fairly comfortably. And actually, over the course of the season, I thought West Brom were pretty good. But when you faced them up home and away over two legs, it came out pretty clear that there was a big class difference. Unfortunately, we're starting to see, aren't we, a clear difference between Premier League outfits and Championship outfits, and it is very difficult now for Championship teams to overcome that deficit in terms of the money that's been accumulated through parachute payments. And look, I know that Norwich have benefited from it, so I'm certainly not going to be up on my high horse screaming about it. But the gulf in class is huge. We had Burnley, Sheffield United and Luton go up automatically or got promoted last season and ended up coming straight back down. I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of the teams that go up this season end up coming straight back down. It is incredibly difficult, one, to get promoted when you've been in the Championship a little while, and then two, to stay up. So there we go. That's my season reflection on my Championship predictions. The mid-table is so difficult to predict. As I said, Bristol City, Preston, usually a fair kind of banker in terms of getting that roughly right. I was fairly chuffed with my automatics and my playoff kind of my top three, top four. There or thereabouts with that. Didn't take a genius to work it out. There was a clear trend down near the bottom in terms of managerial changes, either helping sides or really hindering sides, and that's always going to be difficult to predict from the start of the season. Some I just got horrifically wrong. Sunderland, West Brom and Hull are the ones that stick out there. So hopefully learning my lessons going into the start of next season. So much still to change, player transfers, managerial changes. But there we go. Let me know what you thought of my predictions and how did you all get on? Because I know a lot of you were playing along. Were there any teams that really surprised you for better or for worse? Let me know down in the comments section below. Thanks very much for watching and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.